Hi everybody! One thing I've been wondering about recently is for old amplifiers, of which I've got a few, is how much value is in there in servicing, kind of what you can expect. So I thought I'd do a little experiment. Now this is a old amplifier that's been in a collection for about 30 years. It's from the 60s. It's a 65 Vibrolux Reverb. And as you can see when I turn it on, you'll hear it's got a few issues. So once it warms up, you'll hear there's a pretty pronounced hiss, even though I've got all the knobs on 1 or 0. I think given the frequency of the hiss and some reading I've done online that this is probably the filter capacitors on the power supply, which is why none of the knobs have any effect on it, because it's not a problem with the preamplifier. Now it does pretty much work, and my understanding is it's pretty much all original. So my other curiosity on it was like what impact on sound would servicing an amp like this have. So just for the purposes of having a before, let's set everything to, I'm going to set everything treble and bass to 6 and volume to about 2.5, reverb to 2.5, 2. And let's kind of hear what it sounds like clean. This is 335. Let's see what we got. Turns out you have to plug in your guitar. And then let's just crank it up a little bit for the purposes of hearing what that sounds like. So I'm going to turn it up to 5. It's quite a bit louder. It should distort a little bit. I'm going to turn bass down. So now it's treble 6, bass 4. Alright, so I'm going to take it into somebody's service. I've gotten in touch with somebody here in Seattle who puts a priority on keeping things mostly original, so we'll see what they end up doing and what, if anything, changes in terms of how this sounds, including the noise. So as you can hear, it's pretty noisy right now. That's partly because I'm in a room with lights and a guitar, and it's cranked pretty loud, but even when I unplug it, you still got that background hum. Alright, let's see what happens. See you soon. Hey everyone! So as you can see, I got back my Vibrolux from servicing. I ended up taking it to Brent at Solderhaus, who picks up here at Emerald City once a week. I didn't want to mention who it was before in case it didn't turn out well, but I think as you'll hear, I'm pretty happy with the results. So here's what Brent did. He swapped around some tubes, some preamp tubes, and that was essentially, there were a few ones that were kind of iffy, and there are some positions where it's better, or that are more accepting of crummy tubes than others, so that helped with some of the noise. He replaced, at my request, the 5U4 rectifier that was in there, which is not the specified one, but is very common for Fenders. I think Fender even sent out a service advisory to use them. The GZ34s were originally a British rectifier, which were hard to find in the States and continue to be. This one's an NOS Japanese one, as the modern reissues are, not necessarily the best or even actually GZ34s. So he replaced the filter caps, and that helped with the noise a lot. And he also fixed a grounding issue on the original foot switch. So as you can see, original foot switch is back instead of the reissue I was using before, and the light's on. It's actually plugged into a guitar and volume is on, and you don't really hear anything, which is kind of awesome compared to before, where it was pretty loud. The one thing that Brent didn't do, which he mentioned, was that the power tubes are a little bit microphonic. What that means is it picks up vibrations because there's a moving piece of metal that's, moves when you tap on it basically. And you may notice that a little bit in the low notes. You'll hear a little like buzzing sound, which could be something in the room, but I think it's actually one of the power tubes. And the reason we didn't replace them is that the tubes that are in there are Mesa Boogie 606s from the 80s, which are actually relabeled Sylvania US tubes that sound great. They're otherwise fine other than microphonics. And to get a comparably good tube now would cost hundreds of dollars, or pair of tubes. And, it is just one of the better sounding tubes out there. So decided to stick with it for now, unless the buzzing really bugs me. Let me know if you notice it and what you think in the recording. I know even before servicing, I was really pleased with how the recording sound turned out. I think I turned a little less squishy in the recording than kind of what I notice as in the room. Anyways, let me grab my guitar and let's hear what it sounds like. All right, so playing the same guitar as before on the neck pickup, 335 here. And as before, I'm going to start out with the amp on 2.5, volume, bass, treble both on 6, bright switch off, reverb on 2.5. All right, let's see what that sounds like. So I think that sounds great. I think it might even be louder than before. Yeah, in fact, when I turn it up, I'll have to make sure I don't peak out on my microphone preamps. I'll have to check the levels. But let's do it. Let's tank it up to 5, which is what we did before to get a little dirt. And I am once again turning the bass down to 4, leaving the reverb at 2.5. Let's see what that sounds like. Pick up. Let's get on the bridge. Like I said, just let me check the mic preamps. Definitely blew out my vocal mics, but everything else looks okay. All right, let's see. Yeah, pretty cool sounding. I'm excited to hear what that sounds like recorded. I got the mic in the same spot. I taped off the spot and everything. Yeah, it sounds good in the room. I do hear the that microphonic tube. Here, I'm going to turn it back down a little bit. I do hear that microphonic tube when I hit the bass notes. It's a little buzz. I don't, with the microphone and the amp, it might not come through. Yeah, I'll have to think about what to do about that. Anyways, let me know what you think. If you have any recommendations on tube 6L6s for this that might be less microphonic and still sound great, especially if it's not NOS, that'd be great if I didn't have to spend hundreds of dollars on it. Or if there's like a hidden gem, let me know in the comments. anyways, yeah. Yeah, there's still a little buzz there at 5, but that's not the worst. If I turn off the volume on the guitar, it goes away. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, let me know if there's anything else you want to know. Hit like or subscribe. I have to say that. I'm told. Thanks. Have a good one.